1, 2. Take off. Jeff Bezos, Shabbat has begun.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Good job.
We begin our service on page 128 in Mishkan Tefillah with Hinei Ma Tov, how wonderful it is to be together. Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. Shalom aleichem, salam aleikum. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
We turn to page 124 at the top 1 to 4, and please join me in this reading. We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wandering, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer, and we continue with our candlelight blessing on page 120.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehatlik ner shel
For those who are able, we rise together for Kiddush, page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav meratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'asei bereishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'i kodesh Seichel Yitziat Mitzrayim Ki banu bacharta Be'otanu kidashta Mikol hamim B'shabbat kodshecha Be'ahava u'b'ratzon Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Cheers. Turn to page 127 at the top, and please join me. 127. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand and wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we care nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty, a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace, and we continue on page 130 with Psalm 95, 130.
Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariya. השמות נריע לו, כי אל גדול אדוני ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים, אשר בידו מחקרי ארץ ותועפות הרים לו. אשר לא הים והוא עשהו, ביבשת ידיו יצרו, כי הוא אלוהינו בנחנו, אמר איתו וצאן ידו.
We proceed with the pinnacle of Kabbalat Shabbat on page 138, Lecha Dodi.
Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela, lechan dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela, shamor וזכור בדיבורך תשמיענו, אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לחמדותי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחמדותי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונאל חגים, מקור הברכה בראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשם בתחילה. לחמדותי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחמדותי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך ניגע. לחמדותי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We rise together to greet Shabbat HaMelkah.
בואי ושלום עטרת מעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לחמדותי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לחמדותי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue the bottom of page 145, 145, and please join me. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on a ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before. Less routine set my ways. We continue with our Chetzi Kaddish 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא תברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחי לכל בית ישראל. בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב באמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
We rise together, 146.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared?
The top of page 147, and please join me. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nevarech, let us bless.
Barehu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yadadai-dai-dai, 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 yadadai-dai-dai.
We continue, top of page 149, 149 at the top. Praise you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim, on the next page.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadta, Otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu uvkumeinu nasiach mechukecha, v'nismach בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם בלילה, נהגה יומם בלילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. If you're lost, you feel afraid, and you don't know what to say, then listen to our God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen to our God. Listen with all your heart and soul, and with all your might. Write them and learn them and teach them well, every morning and night. Close your eyes and listen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto leolam va'ed. Listen to our God. Listen to our God.
The top of page 157, 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. There's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We continue with our Michal Mocha on the next page.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני מלוך לעולם פעם. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da.
We continue on page 161, 161 at the top, and please join me. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will, our Hashkivenu, our prayer for strength at night, 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai. Eloheinu l'shalom, Behamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Behamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Behamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Lechaim.
163. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We continue with Vishamru 162.
Shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam, beini u'bein bnei Yisrael, oti le'olam le'olam, ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, u'bayom hashmi'i shavat ma'i nafash.
Middle of page 165, and please join me. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits. God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. For those who are able, we rise together for our tefillah 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue the top of page 173. 173, and please join me. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Makadesh HaShabbat. We continue on the next page with Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael u'tefilatam תמיד עבודת ישראל ישראל עמך אל קרוב לכל קורא אף פני אל עבדך מכוננו שפוך רוחך עלינו ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון
continue 179, 179 at the top, and please join me. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul. May the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praise to you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Betom beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
We take a few moments for silent reflection or prayer.
רצון אמרי פי, יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, בהגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, me'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, ve'imeru,
At this moment in our service, we take time to think of those in our community, those especially in need of healing in body or spirit. On the Shabbat, we think of Linda Applebaum, Cindy Silverman Bailey, Sophia Berry, Ronald Beasley, Callie Bonds, Harold Seitling, Deborah Chargois, Karen Edwards, Edward Goldberg, Elaine Gross, Josie Hatfield, Evelyn Held, Lyons Hyman, Donald Ameda Himmel, Patty Hertzberg, Norma Jill Jacobson, Corey Kessler, Laney Klein, Bart Colbert, Jerry Lapidus, Susie Ofson, Nathan Ruha, Becky Seitel, David Siegel, Liz Slive, Chrissy St. Charles, Brenda Weinstein, Jesse Weisberg, and Elisa Whitehead. If you are thinking of a loved one, a friend, someone who means so much to you in life, and you wish to share a name out loud, we invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours. Go ahead, Jerry. For those names mentioned out loud and for those names that are still in our hearts, our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, 371, 371 in the middle.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imoteinu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imoteinu Mekor HaBracha La'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
A couple days ago, the front office staff asked me, what is my sermon title, my Devar Torah, my Drash for tonight? And I said to them, it's the second book of Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, Parshat V'Echanan. And as Rabbi Miller told me, this is when Rabbi Grafman said it's time to get serious because we're just 7 weeks away from Yontif. And I really wanted to stick to the heart of the parashah to begin this process of introspection and reflection, examining the limitations in our lives and, of course, our successes and strengths, and not give a sermon that fires us up because there's an issue going on with the Jewish people. And then I find myself compelled to talk about ice cream before we get into the service, and people are smiling because perhaps you know where I'm going. Paul is looking confused. So, for those who haven't followed the news, the Vermont ice cream, known for its strange ice cream titles, Ben & Jerry's, decided to no longer hold a license and sell ice cream in Judea and Samaria, the biblical names for the West Bank, or the PC term, which is used often in the media, which is the occupied territories. But for me, we can't occupy our own homeland. But nevertheless, this caused outrage within the Jewish community, and it should. I'm going to connect this, I'm going to attempt to our Torah portion, and you're going to see where I'm going. The reason why this is so maddening, of course, it's Jew hatred, it's anti-Israel, etc. But what gets me the most in this morning cover of the Wall Street Journal, Chinese authorities in Hong Kong arrested a children's book author for sedition because he was using, allegedly, children's book to speak about freedom of speech, and Chinese authorities arrest him. And it's a very disturbing photo of the author with a bag over his face. You cannot see his face. It's a black bag. Now, this is terrifying for us as an American and as a world citizen, but keep in mind that you don't see Ben & Jerry's and other companies boycotting or ending their license in so many of these legitimately horrible areas. Now, why am I saying that? Because opponents of the boycott, divest, and sanction movement, whenever you apply an illogical double standard to the state of Israel and the Jewish people, this indeed is Jew hatred. That no other country in the world goes through so much scrutiny when it shouldn't. And you could look at the UN foundations and the United Nations the Human Rights Council, how ridiculous this is. But this is the world. But on the good note, I'm confident because 30 out of 50 states pass anti-BDS laws. Texas and Florida have already begun the legal and civil procedures in order to file suit against Ben & Jerry's, and we're hoping that Ben & Jerry's will switch its decision. Now, there's another company that owns Ben & Jerry's, but we're hopeful that they can, because whenever they decide to boycott a company in Judea and Samaria, the people that they're affecting the most isn't so much Israelis in Judea and Samaria, it's actually Palestinians. They're affecting their pocketbook. But as the great Rabbi Sachs taught us, is that this is the third mutation of the virus of anti-Semitism. The first mutation was hating Jews because of their religion. The second mutation of the virus was hating Jews allegedly by their race. This was introduced in the 19th century. But the third mutation is hating Jews for their nation state. So my take home regarding this ice cream situation is eat Haagen-Dazs. Why am I saying to eat Haagen-Dazs? This is meaningful. It was founded by Reuben and Rose Mattis, and these were Polish Jews who wanted to choose a Danish name because so many Danes were committed and passionate to save Jews during the Holocaust. So consider that for those who love ice cream. So at the end of the day, as we continue this fight regarding our people, never give an inch, and regardless if it's Friday, Saturday, or throughout the week, I promise this congregation I will always be vocal when we are deemed to be vocal, and therefore I am obligated to begin this sermon about ice cream. But let's get to the heart of the matter, because I will connect it to Eretz Yisrael. So Cantor Whitner did a beautiful rendition to Doug Cutler's Listen because of Shema. Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4, which falls into this week's Torah portion, and this is where we get Shema, Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, and Adonai is one. And then after that, we have our Ve'ahavta, where we inscribe these words upon our doorposts and our eyes. This is arguably one of the most important parashas, because this is when we finally get it to accept the oneness of God. But I don't want to talk about that. Rather, I want to talk about the title itself, the Et Hanan, which sometimes we don't look at. The Et Hanan means, I implored. And this is when Moses is praying to God, and this word, the Et Hanan, according to Rashi, it's a spiritual understanding for deep prayer. Moses understands that he transgressed during the waters of Meribah when he kicked the rock and water came forth, and he didn't attribute it to God, but to himself. And God punished him in the worst fashion, not allowing him to enter into Eretz Yisrael. Throughout the Torah portion, since this punishment, Moses would do anything he could to enter Eretz Yisrael. When we talk about Eretz Yisrael, it's the land of Israel. So a commentary will capitalize El for Israel. Whenever he saw a chance to perhaps change God's mind, he went for it. But unfortunately, he was not allowed to enter the promised land, regardless of his genuine teshuvah. So what do we learn from this? In verse 25, Moses again beseeches God and says, "Let me now cross and see the good Eretz, capital L, that is on the other side of the Jordan, this good mountain and the Lebanon." For Moses, Eretz Yisrael was everything. His first task as leader of bringing the people Israel free from the shackles of redemption, but that journey was only part one. The second part of his journey was ensuring that he would be part of a new nation in the land which God promised to his ancestors. But Moses continues to fight. He says to God, "I recognize that I am no longer the leader of the people Israel. I gladly give that mantle to Joshua, who will take command of the people. Just let me be in the land." But nevertheless, the punishment is too bare, and he is prohibited, again, from entering Eretz Yisrael. I think there's a few things that we can learn from this. I think as we reflect back on the past year, we look at the ideas when we genuinely apologize to someone else, but unfortunately, the pain that we may have caused is too bare for them to accept our apology. I think we've all been in circumstances in this before. It takes great courage to do this, but nevertheless, it's still disappointing, and I can't imagine what Moses felt when God still said no. What we also learn from the Torah portion is when to give the mantle to the next person. That Moses, regardless of his successes and accolades, he knew that it was time to pass on the leadership. And how many times in our life, whether it was painful or the right thing, we knew that it was time to give up because we were doing a good job being a mentor. But finally, the thing that we can take away from this Torah portion, which I can relate it back to this ice cream situation, is that the second book of Deuteronomy, Parshat V'Elchanan, and the Haftorah portion, once again it teaches us that Judaism is more than a religion and more than a peoplehood. It's a religion and peoplehood that is unquestionably connected to a physical, a tangible land, and that land is Eretz Yisrael. The Haftorah, which we will read for tomorrow morning, comes from the book of Isaiah, beginning with chapter 40. And it starts, Nachmu, Nachmu Ami Vayomer Elohim. Comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem. We call this Shabbat. Shabbat Nechuma, meaning the Shabbat of comfort. Between this weekend and 7 weeks later, this is where we get the Haftorot of comforting the Jewish people. The agony of being in exile, which happened in 586 BCE, and the longing to return to our indigenous homeland. It's in these words from the book of Isaiah that we have hope that God will restore us and finally bring us the comfort from the difficulties of our lives. So our task for tonight, yes, it is to eat Haagen-Dazs and do our own eternal boycott at Publix, but keep in mind the power of high holidays. It's the beginning of the introspection, the reflection. It's the appreciation and courage to accept our shortcomings and to try to repair those relationships that we deem broken. But most importantly, it's the time for teshuvah, returning to our good selves. But the few months that we've been through, I think we return to Adonai, we return to Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, regardless of movement, reform, Orthodox, conservative, we are all Am Yisrael. And finally, our return to Eretz Yisrael. If Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, was prohibited from entering into the land of Israel, this Torah portion speaks clearly for us. We love Israel, we connect in Israel for Moses. He brought us to the edge. Let's spiritually cross him over by our support. Shabbat Shalom. We turn to page 586 and we rise together for our Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We turn to page 596, 596 at the top. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear, but if we dwell too long on our loss, we embed our hearts and harm ourselves and those about us. The psalmist said that in his affliction he learned the law of God, and in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silent in their presence, when a word will assure them of our love and concern. Thus, even when they are gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live as, in their higher moments, they themselves wish to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing on this Shabbat, Nachuma, the Shabbat of comfort. We remember the yortzites of Sylvia Asherman, Max C. Burke, Joseph E. Berman, Rosalie B. Black, Beatrice Cohen, Rabbi Myron L. Datnoff, Melba Epsman, Ida Shapiro Feinberg, Shirley Fink, Tilly Davidson Fisher, Corrine Erdrich Fox, Gordon Friedman, David Friedman, Joe Hagedorn, Jimmy Gary Harp, Gladys Hiller, Marcia Berman Kraselski, Henry Louis, Leopold Loeb, Leo Mandel, Maurice Mervis, Samuel Morse III, Ted Newman, Seaman Ullman Newfield, Dolly Ann Newmark, Myra Mirsky Otis, Ida K. Ovson, Lorraine Phillips, Peter Rathmel, Robert L. Rubin, Sarah G. Rosenberg, Goldie G. Russakoff, Jane Schreibman, Dora Silberman, William Sklar, Eva Ray Solomon, Florence G. Sonnabed, Nathan Starr, Carol Tuck, Israel Erdong, Michael Ustin, Ben S. Wheel, Ruth C. Weinstein, Edwin M. Weller, and Sarah Zalkin. And our heartfelt condolences on the recent passings of Carlin Ayland, cousin of Faye and Robert, and Barbara and Jack, Robert and Judith Ayland, Annette Applebaum Bame, aunt of Kit Roth, Dr. Gary H. Cohen, Leonard Fred Halprin, husband of Anne, father of Gary and Randy, and Rita Mandel, the wife of Jack. We rise together as a united congregation for a Martyr's Kaddish on page 598. Yid Gadal, B'Gadash, Shmei Rabbah, B'Alma, Divrach, Rotei, V'Amlich, Malchutei, B'Chayachon, V'Yomechon, Ufeit, Kol Beit Yisrael, B'Galah, Uzman Kari, V'Yimru,
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mivarach, Le'olam, Olamei Amaya, V'Barach, V'Shabach, V'Ba'ar, V'Romam, V'Naseh, V'Dadar, V'Talel, V'Talel, Shmei Dekudshav,
Barichu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiram mi'oma v'yamru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yamru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yasei shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yamru, amen.
Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael me'imeru. Amen.
Before we conclude with Adon Olam on 625, just brief announcements. Our incredible program, it's 2 years into its stages, our arguably most successful engagement program, Temple Circles. They are recruiting new leaders for the fall session, so try something new. And it's a wonderful program. Let Monica Singletary know by July 31st. The second important announcement, the Birmingham Jewish Federation is conducting a critical and crucial survey. I expect everybody in the sanctuary to do it, and everyone has to tell 5 to 10 friends, and we know if you'll do it, and if you'll do it, I will give you a wonderful prize, I promise. And
Except Benji.
what?
He's under 18.
No, everyone in the household, or do you have to be over 18?
You have to be over 18.
Over 18, sorry. You're an eyes almost in the Jewish world of an adult, but you'll get there, I promise. And 2 more things. We plan on being in person high holidays. I think we're going to be okay. For those who want to purchase Mishkan HaNefesh, our wonderful volume of the High Holiday Prayer Book for your own copy, please see inside and see the details. And finally, starting after the Hag, something we're so proud of in the Jewish community, our Kesher 8th through 12th grade high school program, post B'nai Mitzvah. We're so excited about this. Everybody in the Jewish community in Birmingham is invited at the day school Thursday nights. Wonderful electives. They're going to be eating dinner together and celebrating and being Jewish together. We finally did it when Bethel and Emanu-El. We have partnered in incredible collaboration. So please tell every Jewish teen, 8th grade to 12th grade, enroll. It's going to be a game changer, and we are so excited to do this. Let's conclude Shabbat. 625.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol Yitzir nibra li'et nasa b'chefzo kol azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol lebado imloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu hove ve'hu yeh b'tifara ve'hu echad ve'ein sheni lehamshil lo leachmira b'li reshit b'li tachlit v'lo ha'os ve'hamizra ve'hu eli ve'chai go'ali ve'tzur chevli be'et tzara ve'hu nisi umanos li menat kosi be'yom ekra be'yado afkiduchi be'et ishan be'aira ve'im ruchi geviati Adonai li velo ira. Good Shabbos.